Welcome all! After seeing mixed responses from the Sisters community, I took to Reddit to try to accurately capture the state of Sisters in 10th edition. Let's start with the facts and reoccurring complaints. As of September, the Sisters are the 21st most played faction at Grand Tournaments with a win rate of around 43%. That immediately says a lot, as with low representation, it's most likely the hardcore Sisters players that are sticking it out and are still struggling to get to the top podiums. A lot of respect for these folks for staying positive and continuing to play the army that they love. The largest complaint online, which was echoed in our Reddit community post, is that the Sisters anti-tank is underperforming due to its low strength and reduced range of 18 inches. The Sisters have so few anti-tank options, I can see why this is a big issue for many. Next was the synergy. Straight away, our army rules second part does not work properly, as you need to be below half strength to get the benefit of the +1 to wound. Meaning if you have a character, you will need to be around 4 models or 2 models if you're a Retributor squad. Combine this with the fact that the only unit that can take a second hero is the Battle Sister squad. The Sisters do have some nice buffing heroes, but for example, you would never take the Magnifier over a Palatine or Canoness with a Sacrosanct squad, so it's a real moot point. On that note, the Sisters' combat threat has also been vastly reduced. Bloody Rose in 9th was a bit over the top, but this perhaps is too far the other way. It's not all doom and gloom, however, as Sisters did take 4th place in both a 90-person and a 30-person tournament. However, it is worth noting the French tournament, the player is down as taking Inquisition, so read into that what you will, as it's most likely not a pure Sister list and might only have very few key units. I want to address some of the common complaints, as it's all too easy to get worked up into a negative spiral with online reading which states X army is trash or Y army is garbage, which is something I've seen way too much of recently from the 40k community. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the fact that Sisters aren't in the best place, but simply put, comp stats and gameplay is not the be all and end all, and it's not representative of the majority of players who simply just do not attend events. As a comp player, I would be irritated, however, as competing is currently a struggle, which has obviously probably led to most of them comp players shelving their armies, which is overall bad feeling and bad health for the game. The majority of anti-tank in 40k wounds tanks on 5+. There are las cannons which are better, there are wraith cannons which are better, but the majority is wounding on 5+s across the board. What Sisters can do very effectively is flood the board with melter weaponry. It's also AP4, so most of the time things aren't getting a save. In most standard games, you aren't going to have an issue killing tanks. Couple this up with miracle dice and you can reliably smash out higher damage output and higher wound rolls. No, the miracle dice aren't guaranteed, but we can get a ton of them. I've had some games where I'm sat on 7 1s and 2s which sucked, but it is a dice game. And I find by running 3 Sisters squads, I'm usually pumping miracle dice out like no tomorrow. You can also get rerolls through enhancements. What I will say though, even in standard games, Sisters have had a very limited number of good units which they can call upon. I mean, and the ones which are okay usually need a Rhino and a character to keep them in the game at all or give them any relevance. The most successful lists tournament-wise rely really heavily on Hero Hammer and tank use, and tanks are just, up this edition anyway, so that does make sense. Admittedly, by taking 2 Gastigators with autocannons, I've been shredding enemy armour with those twin-linked damaged-free cannons, which is quite funny considering it's meant to be the anti-infantry variant. Echoing what some of you have said, and adding in my own thoughts, what I'd personally like to see is the Humble Battle Sister squad unit size change to be 5 to 20. This would allow us to farm miracle dice for cheap, whilst giving us units to effectively trade with. Whilst being able to take 20, you can bet all day I'm attaching 2 characters to it. It'd be worth giving the unit the Magnifier and the Hospitalia, which would turn it into this ultra tough brick with 4+ invuln saves, and I believe a 5-up feel no pain. I'll have to double check on that. Or you can take advantage of all them extra guns with the Triumph or other such buffs. At 10 Battle Sisters though, none of these are worth doing. The army rule could do with a slight tweak. I do love the +1 to hit when injured, it's very thematic, it's very useful, but that +1 to wound needs to change. I'd personally move it so when a unit's below 75% strength, it takes effect. Have a think, look at how much that would change things, especially with enhancements and smaller units like Retributors, because I think it could be bang on. The biggest change for me though would be like the Sisters flamethrowers are Ministorum flamers, right? But give the Sisters special multi-melters. And those multi-melters, they could either have extra range or even the twin linked rule. It's a simple change which would actually move the Sisters anti-tank to being quite scary again, because a 5 to wound with a reroll is closer to a 1 in 3 chance. In fact, it is a 1 in 3 chance. And finally, if the Castigator had an extra pip of AP, it would be fantastic, because cover is very easy to obtain in 10th, and this would help offset the downsides of that change, although it is something like 8 shots damage free, so that would have to be carefully balanced and looked at. My final thoughts to close out here is my entire experience playing as Sisters this edition has been nothing but positive. I've only lost 2 of my games, and this has been whilst filming and playing at local stores. These games have been against mainly armies within the same win ratio as the Sisters, however. The upside to the negative changes is that I can expand my collection with some of that much needed armour, as I don't feel I need any more infantry after painting over 100 of them. My biggest negative though is that my favourite unit, the Sacrosancts, have been done dirty. They are okay, the -1 to wound is nice, but losing the 2+ save and just having next to no way to buff them has not been great at all. 2 attacks and models just not cutting it. I'll have to switch them to the Mace variant, I think, and try getting some devastating wounds instead with the Astrid Verga combination. Sadly, the biggest downside is we will most likely be waiting till a codex drops before we see any significant changes to the army, so we are just going to have to hold out until then, remain positive and enjoy the models and the collection. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and your experiences. Although mine are positive, I am once again aware of the drawbacks of the faction so far in 10th, but I want to know what your experiences are, because I'd hate if I was the only one having a positive experience out there, but I don't think it's the case. And just to close out, thank you for making it all the way through the video. If you are still here, you may as well subscribe. We also run a narrative campaign that's free to get involved in, and we also give away £300 worth of Games Workshop product every month, and we ship internationally at our expense. It's only £3 to be automatically entered, and that's on our Patreon. Once again, thanks everyone.